Okay, cool. Oh, what's up, my little firecrackers? This is Blazing What Ifs, blazing his way into another video. Oh, this is What If Deku was a Dragon Slayer? Part 3. Now, as Izuku was... Oh my god, shut up! As Izuku was talking to someone, he saw a strange straw hat with a red line across it, attached to some weird strings of some kind, fly through a portal, get pulled through a portal. Now what happened, you ask? Well, let's find out. Well, to answer that question, let's go back a few days. A portal had opened into another world. As a man with dark green hair and a straw hat with a red lining walked through with a spiky-haired blonde. They both looked to be about in their 30s, maybe 40s. As a little 10-year-old girl came behind them. Black hair. Long black hair. Well, long for a 10-year-old. As she said, looking up at the green-haired man with the straw hat, "Dad, did it work?" As the three of them look around, they see him in advanced society. Izuku, the father of this young girl apparently, chuckled a little bit. Now this is interesting, he said to himself. He said to no one in particular. So then that devil fruit had the ability to open portals, seemingly to another dimension. Well, Bakugo, what do you think? He said, looking at the spiky-haired blonde. I don't think that... It's interesting, that's for sure. It's interesting, that's for sure, Captain. I haven't seen anything like this ever. That devil fruit must be new. Just like yours was. As when you first ate it. Just like you were the first user of your devil fruit, it seems that your daughter is the first user of some sort of space fruit. And it also seems like we're going to have to she's going to have to train a bit more before we can get back to our dimension. For now, we should just lay low. Do what's needed to survive. As the three did for quite some time, and found out that this world had many different superpowers. They also found that they had different versions of themselves in this universe, as they followed one who, though looked completely different, his facial features were the same as the person that this other version of Bakugo called Captain had when he was his age. He knew for a fact it had to be him in this world. Interesting. Very interesting. They followed and found that he had strange abilities. But decided that it was time that they head back to their own world. Pearl Star, as the man that we know as Izuku from another universe, apparently, said, "I think it's time to go. Starlight, you think you can open up another portal to our universe?" Said, "Yeah, Dad, I think I can." Though she struggled for a bit, she opened the portal to this other world. As they disappeared. The hat coming through the portal last. Being the only thing that Izuku saw, Izuku shrugged it off. Didn't think much of it. Izuku then obviously accepted Ichiro's offer. And they planned a date for the weekend. And now, time skip to the next day. They need to choose. Then Aizawa comes into the classroom and says, "Okay, now you all have to choose a class representative." In his normal tired voice. Now, unlike in other versions of this world, Izuku was overwhelmingly nominated as the class president. Izuku accepted. He'd been trained in many things, including being a leader, as he was trained by a dragon queen, a leader in her own right. And so, things went on like this. They had lunch. Izuku had made friends. Pseudo-friends. And those people that you talk to, but you're not really friends with. Those people you talk to, but you don't really hang out with. Pseudo-friends. Pseudo-friends. And so, the day went on until they had their first hero class. Now, when All Might came into the room, everyone was surprised. It had been almost a year since Izuku had last seen All Might. Izuku, and in that year, All Might had buffed up again. Not to an extreme. He's not where he is now in his buff form. I'd say he's maybe 1/8 of the way there. So he's not extremely skinny in his small Might form. He's not Skelemite anymore, if you know what I mean. So even when he deflates back down, he's still rather muscular. It was easier for him to build back up muscle, since he could use One for All to do so. Now his injury was completely gone, he didn't have to worry about it. Now, Izuku then, pretended to be surprised, but not really. He was expecting anything, really. Now, if Endeavor turned out to be their teacher, then he would have been surprised, because Endeavor's a bitch. But they went on with their day. All Might said that today you're going to be doing battle training. Now, the pairings go to canon. Izuku tells Uraraka that they should minimize all damage before they did anything. So what Izuku did is, when they had their 5 minutes to prep, Izuku said to Uraraka, now this is gonna be weird, but I need you to trust me. She said, okay, I trust you. He then cuts himself. He then holds his arm over her gauntlets and cuts himself, causing him to bleed onto her gauntlets. The wound then heals, and he says, when I say it's time, point your arms directly at Ida. Fist out like this. As he said while holding both arms out like he'd just punched somebody with both arms at once. And make sure you're pointing directly at Ida. Do you understand? She said, yeah, but do I have to leave it on? He said, yes. Until I say it's time, the blood stays on those gauntlets. Now, here's the plan. Bakugo is probably going to fight me to prove that he's stronger than I am, or at the very least to test his strength against me. While that's happening and I have him distracted, you are going to go and fight Ida. Once you not fight him, I need you to, sneak your way in there. What if he notices you? Tell me, and I'll tell you when it's time. And try to grab the bomb if you can. If you can't, let me know, and we'll decide. Let me know everything that's going on, and I'll tell you when it's the perfect time. Got it? She said, yep, I got it. But are you sure this will work? He said, trust me, it'll work. The most basic plans are the ones the villains never expect. Which means they normally work out more often than the complex ones. And so so the battle went off, and just like Izuku suspected, Bakugo had gone to him to test his strength. Izuku was more or less dodging his attacks, beating the out of Bakugo. Holding back a lot. He hasn't transformed at all, which put him on the ropes, as Bakugo had done some training, which Izuku hadn't suspected. And it was at this point that Izuku transformed into his Dragon Force. He said, I'm not gonna go down so easily, Bakugo. Well, now he was actually trying. Bakugo knew he wouldn't be able to go all out in such a confined space, but at least he'd be able to use this. Then he did something that Bakugo had never seen before. Bakugo was about to release his explosion from his gauntlets. At the same time, Izuku did something that Bakugo hadn't expected. He put both hands on his mouth, creating a small cylinder kind of shape. Before he blew out, blood just spewing from his mouth as he screamed, "Blood Dragon Roar." Because everybody's been saying, "You forgot the Blood Dragon Roar." I'll get to it. Well, here you go. And so he did. And both of them just canceled each other out. Spraying blood everywhere, there's smoke everywhere. And that's when Uraraka calls out to him. Izuku, he spotted me, and he's moving the bomb around with his speed, so I can't get it. He said, "Good." He said, "Okay, where is he? Is he still moving around quickly?" He said through the smoke, kind of coughing a bit. He said, "No." She said, "No." It's like, then it's time. As he focused on the blood and on the blood that he had left on Uraraka's gauntlets, he said, okay then, it's time. Let me know when you're in position." She holds out both of her arms towards Ida with her fists clenched. Ida's like, "What are you doing?" "Is that blood?" He hadn't noticed it yet. Then Izuku said, "Blood, spike!" Focusing entirely on the blood he left on Uraraka's gauntlets. Since it was his blood, it was easier to control, even from a distance, even when he didn't see it. And as the blood shot forward straight from Uraraka's arms, hitting Ida and pinning him to the wall. She said, "Did it hit him?" She said, "Yeah." It's like, "Then don't waste time talking. Get the bomb before he recovers." Uraraka then goes and gets the bomb. Izuku's still coughing from all the smoke. Before Bakugo let off another explosion, which cleared the place of most of the smoke, but also sending Izuku into a wall. Well, right before they heard the announcement, "The heroes have won. The bomb has been defused," as All Might called out over the intercoms. And Izuku got back up, what little wounds he had healing over. He kind of chuckled. "Gotta say, I wasn't expecting that last one. I thought I had you with that last attack." Bakugo walked away angrily. Izuku said, "Well, it is what it is, I guess," and continued along his way. He then met up with Uraraka, who then hugged him for saying, and then they, Ida, he then healed Ida, absorbed a bit of his blood and then healed Ida because of the blood spikes that pierced him. And reached his hand out, "Hey, are you okay?" He picks up, Ida takes his hand and lifts him up. He said, "Yeah, I'll be fine." "But how'd you do that?" "I can explain later. Let's get back to the rest of the group." So they all go back to class. Izuku is considered the MVP. And Ida being the runner-up MVP. Izuku, because he had predicted that something like that would happen, and he had prepared for it. He had easily predicted how the entire battle would go, and prepared for it. Which Momo explained all of this, causing All Might to think, "Man, she has a really good eye." He said, yes. But Izuku would have been more careful while he was covered in smoke. He let his guard down a bit when the room was filled with smoke. But other than that, he was flawless. The rest of the fights go to canon, and the break-in goes about the same way, except for Izuku releasing a blood-curdling dragon roar, causing everyone to freeze in place before he says, "It's just the press. Calm down." And then at the end of the week, Izuku goes on his date with Ejira. I'm trying not to say Kirishima because every time I say Kirishima, it just reminds me of the non-gender bent Kirishima. So I'm just gonna say Ejira this entire time, or Rara, because that's Izuku's nickname for her. So anyway, Izuku planned for this date, like really planned for this date. But it was planned in such a way that it didn't feel like it was planned. And that was all planned. Sorry, that was just funny. So yeah, that's how it is. It was planned without being planned. Yeah. And they both had an amazing time. Izuku kissed her out of nowhere when they got back to her house, which left her flustered, but he walked away before she could say anything back. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna end this video. Running out of time here. Yeah, I didn't want to do this one like the last one because he wouldn't be as anxious about what happened to him. He's more confident. Even though he has this power, or that makes him feel like he's not human, he knows that it's just a power. Unlike in What If Deku Was a Cyborg, he felt like he was more machine than human and was anxious about it and didn't know what she would say. But in this one, he knows it's just a power that he's gained, he's earned, and he's a lot more confident in himself. So he wouldn't try to hide it. And, yeah. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Blazing What Ifs. Blazing away.